Are you exhausted by the relentless stream of negative thoughts that cloud your mind? Do you find yourself trapped in cycles of self-criticism, pessimism, and mental darkness that seem to poison every moment of your day? Does it feel like your own mind has become your worst enemy, constantly broadcasting messages of inadequacy, failure, and despair that leave you feeling defeated and disconnected from joy? Then this transformative guide is for you, brave seeker on the path of mental freedom and inner awakening. Today we'll explore life-changing Buddhist teachings, ancient yet eternally relevant wisdom that has liberated countless minds for over 2,500 years. That can help you break free from the prison of negative thinking and discover the radiant clarity of your true nature. These aren't temporary positive thinking techniques or superficial affirmations, but profound practices that can fundamentally transform how your mind operates and restore your natural capacity for peace, joy, and wisdom. Prepare to discover sacred methods that not only silence the inner critic, but also awaken the brilliant, compassionate awareness that is your birthright. True mental freedom, the kind that remains unshakable even when life presents challenges, is not only possible but inevitable when you apply these time-tested principles with dedication and love. These teachings have freed countless beings from the tyranny of negative thinking throughout history, and today they can liberate you too from the mental patterns that have kept you suffering for far too long. Understanding the nature of negative thoughts, recognizing the mind's shadow patterns. Imagine your mind as a pristine mirror that has become clouded by layers of dust and grime. Negative thoughts, self-doubt, and mental habits that obscure the brilliant clarity of your natural awareness. These destructive thought patterns arise like dark storms, fed by past conditioning, societal programming, and the mind's tendency to focus on problems rather than possibilities, creating an exhausting cycle of mental suffering that seems impossible to escape. Each negative thought that crosses your awareness is actually a learned pattern, a mental groove carved by repetition, past experiences, and unconscious beliefs about yourself and the world. Buddhism teaches us that recognizing the impermanent, conditioned nature of these thoughts is the first crucial step toward reclaiming your mental sovereignty and discovering the peace that lies beneath the noise. Understanding that negative thoughts are not fundamentally who you are is essential for breaking free from their hypnotic spell. These mental patterns are like passing weather in the vast sky of consciousness. They appear, create temporary disturbance, and inevitably dissolve when met with the right understanding and skillful response. You are not your negative thoughts. You are the luminous awareness in which they arise and pass away. When we become identified with negative thinking, it's as if we're trapped in a mental prison where every cell broadcasts messages of unworthiness, failure, and doom. We replay the same destructive narratives over and over, stories of inadequacy, visions of failure, harsh judgments about our appearance, abilities, or future prospects. But unlike being trapped in an actual prison, we hold the keys to our mental freedom and can learn to unlock these chains of suffering. Buddha taught that we can train our minds to recognize and transform these automatic negative patterns through what he called right mindfulness and right understanding. This involves developing the ability to observe our thoughts with detached awareness rather than being completely consumed by their emotional charge and false authority. A practical example of this process is the technique of mental noting, a method used in both traditional Buddhist meditation and modern cognitive therapy. Every time you notice yourself spiraling into negative thinking, whether it's self-criticism, catastrophic predictions, or harsh judgments about others, gently acknowledge, this is negative thinking arising. This is the conditioned mind creating stories. This simple practice helps you create healing distance from destructive thoughts, observing them without being overwhelmed by their content. In this liberation process, it's absolutely crucial to cultivate infinite patience and compassion toward yourself. We often judge ourselves harshly for having negative thoughts, creating a secondary layer of suffering on top of the original mental pain. This meta-criticism only feeds the cycle more intensely, creating a spiral of self-attack. By applying Buddhist principles of loving kindness to our own mental processes, we can begin to treat our troubled mind with the same gentleness we would offer a beloved friend in distress. To transform these habitual patterns of negativity, it's important to identify your unique mental triggers, specific situations, memories, people, or even physical states that tend to activate negative thinking cycles. Maybe it's certain social media content, comparing yourself to others, reflecting on past mistakes, or encountering particular stressful situations. By recognizing these triggers, you can prepare your mind to meet them with new tools, such as mindful breathing, positive mantras, or grounding exercises. Integrating practices like loving kindness meditation, specifically directed toward yourself, can be tremendously healing for rewiring negative thought patterns. Each day, by sending genuine wishes of happiness and peace to yourself, starting with, "May I be happy, may I be at peace, may I be free from mental suffering," you train your mind to default to kindness rather than criticism, gradually dissolving negative thinking's grip on your consciousness. Additionally, engaging in activities that naturally generate positive emotions can be an excellent way to interrupt negative thought spirals. Whether it's spending time in nature, listening to uplifting music, engaging in creative expression, practicing gratitude, or connecting with loved ones, these practices flood your system with positive energy and remind your mind of its natural capacity for joy and appreciation. Remember that eliminating negative thoughts is a gradual process, like cultivating a garden. Just as a gardener patiently removes weeds while nurturing beautiful flowers, the practice of purifying your mental landscape requires daily care and attention. Don't become discouraged by setbacks or days when negativity feels particularly strong. Each moment of awareness and each conscious choice to redirect your thoughts is a victory on the path toward lasting mental freedom. If this message resonates with you, and you're seeking more moments of peace and insight, don't forget to like the video and subscribe for daily reflections rooted in ancient wisdom and modern clarity. The Fortress of Inner Kindness. Strengthening your mental immune system. Building unshakable self-worth is like constructing a fortress of kindness within your own heart, a place of refuge that remains strong and protective even when the fiercest storms of self-doubt and criticism rage through your mind. This inner fortress isn't built from denial or false confidence, but from the solid foundation of radical self-acceptance and unconditional love for your own humanity. The practice of genuine self-love begins with a revolutionary understanding. You don't need to earn your worth, prove your value, or achieve perfection to deserve kindness from yourself. Your worth is inherent, unchanging, and exists independent of your thoughts, achievements, or circumstances. This realization alone can shatter years of negative mental conditioning and open the door to profound healing. Consider how you would treat a dear friend who came to you drowning in self-criticism and negative thoughts. You would likely offer comfort, perspective, and unwavering support, without demanding they first prove themselves worthy of your care. This same quality of unconditional love and support must become the default setting for how you relate to your own inner experience. The most powerful weapon against negative thinking is developing what we might call mental immunity, the ability to recognize destructive thoughts without allowing them to infect your sense of self-worth. Just as your body develops immunity to physical diseases, your mind can develop immunity to mental toxicity through consistent exposure to thoughts and practices of self-kindness. One transformative practice is creating what Buddhist traditions call a metta or loving kindness ritual specifically designed for your relationship with yourself. Each morning, stand before a mirror and speak directly to your reflection with genuine warmth. I accept you exactly as you are today. You are worthy of love and belonging. I forgive you for all perceived mistakes, or you are enough just as you are. This practice may initially feel awkward or even false, but with time, it becomes a powerful antidote to years of negative self-programming. The healing power of self-forgiveness cannot be overstated in the journey of eliminating negative thoughts. Much of our mental suffering stems from carrying the weight of past mistakes, regrets, and perceived failures. By consciously practicing forgiveness toward yourself, acknowledging your humanness, learning from past experiences without continuing to punish yourself, and releasing the burden of perfectionism, you free enormous mental energy that can be redirected toward positive growth and self-appreciation. Creating rituals of self-celebration and acknowledgement can powerfully rewire your brain toward recognizing your positive qualities rather than fixating on perceived flaws. This might involve keeping a daily victory journal where you record even small accomplishments, moments of kindness, or personal growth. Whether it's handling a difficult conversation with grace, choosing a healthy meal, or simply getting through a challenging day, acknowledging these moments trains your mind to notice and appreciate your own efforts and strengths. The practice of internal advocacy involves consciously becoming your own best advocate and defender against negative thoughts. When you notice self-criticism arising, imagine stepping into the role of a loving advocate who firmly but kindly challenges these harsh judgments. Ask yourself, would I speak to someone I love this way? What evidence contradicts this negative thought? What would someone who truly cares about me say in this moment? This internal advocacy helps you develop a strong, compassionate inner voice that can stand up to negativity. Physical self-care becomes a powerful form of self-compassion that supports mental healing. Treating your body with respect and kindness through nourishing food, adequate rest, gentle movement, and comfortable clothing sends clear messages to your subconscious mind about your inherent worth and value. When you care for your physical form with love rather than criticism, you naturally cultivate more positive thoughts about yourself overall. The Buddhist understanding of interdependence teaches us that healing our relationship with ourselves naturally improves our relationships with others, and vice versa. As you develop greater self-compassion, you'll find yourself naturally more patient, understanding, and kind toward others. This creates a positive feedback loop where improved relationships reinforce your sense of worth and belonging, further strengthening your inner fortress of self-acceptance. Remember that building this fortress of inner kindness is not about creating a rigid wall that blocks out all criticism or feedback, but rather developing a flexible, resilient foundation of self-worth that remains stable, regardless of external circumstances or temporary internal storms. From this place of inner security, you can actually be more open to growth, more willing to take healthy risks, and more capable of genuine connection with others. The illusion of mental stories. Seeing through negative thought patterns. Understanding the fundamental nature and deepest origins of negative thinking is absolutely essential for transforming your relationship with destructive mental patterns and achieving lasting freedom from psychological suffering. In Buddhist understanding, much of our negative thinking stems from what are called the three poisons: attachment, clinging to how we think things should be; aversion, rejecting aspects of ourselves or our experience; and delusion, misunderstanding our true nature and fundamental worth. These mental poisons manifest as harsh self-judgment, resistance to our human imperfections, and distorted perceptions that see inadequacy and failure where there may be growth and learning. Understanding these deep roots helps us systematically unravel the complex web that keeps our minds trapped in patterns of self-criticism and mental suffering. The human brain has a well-documented tendency toward what psychologists call negativity, bias, an evolutionary remnant that helped our ancestors survive by focusing on potential threats and problems. In our modern world, this ancient survival mechanism often works against our psychological well-being, causing us to magnify our flaws while minimizing our strengths, creating a distorted internal narrative that emphasizes everything that's wrong while ignoring what's right. Today, this tendency can be consciously transformed by bringing mindful awareness to these automatic patterns and recognizing that they don't need to control our self-perception or life experience. We have the remarkable capacity to retrain our minds and develop what neuroscientists call neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to form new, healthier neural pathways throughout our lives. To effectively transform your relationship with negative thinking, it can be profoundly helpful to keep a thought awareness journal. In this sacred space, record negative thoughts as they arise, noting the time, circumstances, emotional triggers, and your physical sensations. Then reflect deeply on their patterns, their accuracy. How often are these harsh judgments actually true? And potential reframes. This practice helps you see negative thinking from an external, more objective perspective, reducing its emotional charge and power over your daily experience. It's absolutely essential to accept that occasional negative thoughts are a natural part of the human experience, what Buddha acknowledged in his teaching about the universality of mental suffering. Negative thinking isn't something we should suppress, deny, or feel ashamed of. This radical acceptance brings tremendous relief and opens space for healthier, more skillful ways of relating to our inner mental landscape. Buddhism teaches that much of our suffering comes from our resistance to our own humanity and imperfection. When we fight against our natural mental processes or demand perfection that no human can achieve, we create additional suffering on top of our original mental discomfort. Instead, we can learn to dance with our thoughts, finding stability not in having perfect mental content, but in our own awareness and wisdom. Mindfulness practices, rooted in 2,500-year-old Buddhist wisdom, are extraordinarily effective for developing an entirely new relationship with negative thoughts. By observing them without immediately believing or fighting them, we begin to understand our mental patterns more clearly and significantly reduce negative thinking's control over our peace of mind and self-worth. The Buddhist understanding of impermanence is particularly liberating when applied to negative thoughts. Everything in existence is constantly changing, including our mental states, self-perceptions, and the situations we judge negatively. When we truly grasp this at an experiential level, we can relate to negative thinking with less resistance and attachment, knowing deeply that these thoughts too shall pass. Mindful awareness for mental liberation, witnessing without judgment. Mindfulness, or sati in Pali, is perhaps the most fundamental and liberating Buddhist practice for freeing yourself from negative thinking patterns. This practice teaches us to rest in pure awareness, observing our mental activity without immediately believing, judging, or trying to change what we're experiencing. This approach is absolutely essential for breaking negative thinking cycles, as it helps us remember that we are the conscious observers of our thoughts, not their helpless victims. The transformative power of mindfulness lies in its ability to create sacred space between you and your negative thoughts. Instead of being completely identified with every self-critical or pessimistic thought that arises, you develop the capacity to witness your mental activity with calm clarity and loving presence. This witnessing awareness is what Buddhism calls our Buddha nature, the innate wisdom and peace that exists within every conscious being. Beginning a mindfulness practice can be as simple and accessible as dedicating just a few minutes each day to conscious observation of your mental activity with complete non-judgmental attention. By watching the flow of thoughts, noticing how they arise, peak, and dissolve, without trying to control or improve them, you train your mind to find refuge in pure awareness itself, significantly reducing negative thinking's power to disturb your peace. This awareness practice is particularly powerful for negative thinking because awareness itself is always peaceful and untroubled. You can't have negative awareness or judgmental awareness, only awareness of negative thoughts or judgmental thoughts. So every time you return to pure observation, you're literally stepping out of the storm of negative thinking into the calm sky of consciousness. Throughout your day, make it a healing practice to bring mindful attention to the specific moments when negative thoughts typically arise. Whether it's while looking in the mirror, noticing self-critical thoughts about appearance, checking social media, observing comparison and inadequacy thoughts, or facing challenges, watching pessimistic predictions, this kind of present moment, awareness helps you catch negative thinking early and respond with wisdom rather than automatically believing destructive mental content. When you're fully present with your actual experience, rather than lost in negative mental stories about your experience, you often discover that the present moment itself is neutral or even pleasant. Your direct experience right now might be perfectly fine. It's only the negative thoughts about your experience that create suffering. True mindfulness also involves accepting your current mental state exactly as it is without immediately trying to fix, escape, or improve it. This doesn't mean resigning yourself to negative thinking, but rather starting from a place of honest acknowledgement rather than resistance. When we accept our negative thoughts without fighting against them, we paradoxically reduce their intensity and open space for natural wisdom and clarity to emerge. Practical example of mindfulness during negative thinking episodes is what Buddhism calls rain. Recognition, noticing negative thoughts are present. Acceptance, allowing them to be there without judgment. Investigation, exploring how they feel in your body and mind. And natural awareness, resting in the spacious awareness that holds all experiences. Instead of being immediately swept away by self-criticism or pessimistic predictions, try stepping back and observing. I notice my mind is creating harsh judgments about myself. My body feels tense. My energy feels heavy. This mindful observation helps you respond to negative thinking from wisdom rather than react from identification. Incorporating mindfulness into your self-talk can dramatically improve your relationship with your own mind. By being fully present with your internal dialogue, really listening to how you speak to yourself rather than unconsciously accepting every thought as truth, you become more aware of negative patterns and more skilled at choosing thoughts that serve your well-being. The practice of mindfulness doesn't need to be confined to formal meditation sessions. It can be beautifully integrated into daily activities like mindful eating, noticing if negative thoughts arise about food or your body, mindful walking, observing thoughts without getting lost in them, or mindful breathing, using breath awareness to anchor yourself in present moment peace when negative thinking intensifies. Using guided meditation apps or recordings specifically designed for working with negative thoughts can be extremely helpful for beginners learning to observe their mind skillfully. Many apps offer specific programs for self-compassion, thought awareness, and mental clarity that can be particularly useful for developing confidence in your ability to witness negative thinking without being overwhelmed by it. Keeping a mindfulness journal can help you track your progress in working with negative thoughts, identify patterns in your mental habits, and celebrate moments when you successfully used awareness to find peace. This record becomes a powerful reminder of your growing capacity to meet your own mind with greater wisdom and compassion. Finally, regular mindfulness practice not only reduces negative thinking, but also opens the door to experiencing your mind's natural clarity and peace. By observing your thoughts without automatically believing them, you begin to discover the spacious awareness that exists beyond all mental content, positive or negative. Life becomes less about managing perfect thoughts and more about resting in the perfect awareness that holds all thoughts with infinite compassion and wisdom. Remember, dear friend, that your mind's natural state is one of clarity, peace, and inherent goodness. Every negative thought that passes through your consciousness is temporary, conditioned, and ultimately powerless to diminish your true worth. With patience, practice, and compassion, you can reclaim your mental sovereignty and discover the joy of living from a mind that serves your highest good.